Hi! So in two of my previous videos on my channel, I explained how I closed my gap between my teeth at home with just simple rubber bands. Now those two videos combined had more than 1 million views and also almost 1 million questions. Therefore I decided to make this video to go straight to the point and give you all the full details that you need to know. We will start with a short time lapse so you can see how it evolved day by day. Let's start. You just saw my gap teeth closing in 40 days. First of all, here you find all the questions that I'm going to answer with the time frame, so you don't lose any more time. And if you find any value in this video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up and subscribe if you aren't a subscriber already. And so the first question is, what do you need to get started? A pack of small rubber bands. Buy as many as you can get because you don't know exactly how many bands you will be needing. For some of you, this experiment will only take a few days, but for others it can take much longer, so it's always good to have some spare bands just in case. The second question, how to put those bands around your teeth. I started with 3 elastics from the same size. One I would put around the 4 front teeth to prevent any gap to form on the sides, and the 2 others around the 2 front teeth. Again, all 3 elastics are the same size. I personally stopped wearing the band around the 4 teeth after a while. Now, you can also try out different methods as you wish. For instance, the X method, where you use only 1 band around the 3 teeth on the left and another one on the right. You have to see what works best for you. Okay, so the third question. Are those bands hygienic? What you can do is simply rinse the bands under running water to wash away any dust, and otherwise you can simply put the bands in a glass of alcohol to kill any germs, but personally I use tap water and that was totally fine. Where do I find those bands, and does it also ship to my country? Well, you find the rubber bands almost everywhere in any local accessory store, but if you still can't seem to find them, you can simply order them online. There is a link in the description where you can find the same transparent bands that I used, and yes, the link in the description ships worldwide. This means also to India, the United States, Canada, Europe, and all other countries that exist on this planet. Basically, it's the definition of worldwide, but I still continue to get this question every single day. So moving on, how long did you use those bands? I personally was wearing those bands for 40 days straight, until the gap between my teeth was fully closed. But certain people have closed their gaps in 2 weeks, and others have waited for more than 2 months before it got closed. So it really depends from one person to another. Do you wear the bands during the day or at night? And how many hours per day? Well, I was using the bands at night and during the day, so basically it was almost 24 hours per day, almost. Did you ever take those bands off? Yes, I took them off while eating and also for brushing my teeth. So basically I went to the table, I took them off, I started eating normally, and afterwards I would go brush my teeth and I would put on clean new bands. So every few hours I would have clean new bands in my mouth, and the old ones I just threw them away. So how many bands were you using at the same time? So as I said previously, I was always wearing 2 or 3 rubber bands at the same time, but during the night I was only wearing 1 single rubber band around the 2 front teeth. Aren't you afraid of choking during the night? As I said before, I only wore 1 transparent band, and the reason why is because the risk would be too big that certain bands would come loose and that I would swallow them. I was not really afraid of choking because they are so tiny and small. Literally, it's not a tennis ball that you're eating. It's just a very tiny rubber band. But it's not the choking that was a problem, but more consuming plastic in my system. As you may know or not, eating plastic is not so good for your system. And I think it only happened once or twice that I woke up without a rubber band inside my mouth, so I was a bit panicking. I think, well, I survived. Okay. Did you had any pain? The first 5 days, yes. I could not eat with my front teeth and they were very sensitive and sore. but the pain went away after a week. And then afterwards, the rest of the experiment was completely painless. So it was really just the 5 first days. How did you eat? So at the table, I took the bands off, and as my teeth were still very sensitive and sore the first 5 days, I only used the back teeth to chew my food. But then afterwards, once the experiment was over, I could use all my teeth again. So don't you worry. I still use my front teeth right now. How to stop those rubber bands from slipping off my teeth every single time? I had exactly the same problem, and I was with my fingers in my mouth every 5 seconds. If you have elastics that are a bit too large for your teeth, you can try by twisting the bands and fold it in two, so it becomes a smaller band and it could help from slipping off. Or what you can try as well is before putting those rubber bands on your teeth, try keeping your mouth open for 30 seconds until your teeth become a little bit less wet from saliva, so the bands become less slippery. That's all I got. What's the exact size of the rubber bands? I purchased the small size, so don't take any large elastics or very extreme tiny bands. It should be more or less the size of your finger top. If it's a little bit larger, it's okay, because you can still twist it and fold it in two, so it becomes a smaller band. Here you have the exact size in centimeters and in inches. Do loom bands also work? I don't think it would work with loom bands, because the regular loom bands are a little bit too thick, so you cannot even place it between your teeth. However, if you have a very special edition where those loom bands are very thin, then okay. But did it close your teeth permanently? Yes and no. The rubber bands will close your gap, but to make it permanent, you will need a permanent retainer to fix the position of your teeth, so it doesn't open again. If once you stop wearing those rubber bands, your teeth will automatically open again in a few hours, because it will go back to their original position. However, you can make it permanent by putting a permanent retainer behind your teeth once it's fully closed. Do you wear a permanent retainer? Yes, as I mentioned in the previous question and also in my first video, you need a retainer to make those results permanent. But what is a permanent retainer? So a permanent retainer is a very small and thin wire that is placed behind your teeth by an orthodontist to prevent your gap from opening again. The next question is, what if I take my permanent retainer off? So first of all, you cannot take your permanent retainer off by yourself. You will need to go back to the orthodontist and he will take it off. Unfortunately, your gap will open again if you decide to take it off. But hey, I have my retainer behind my teeth for more than 5 years now, and I really don't notice at all. It doesn't bother me. I already completely forgot that I had this thin wire. If I wear the bands long enough, will it become permanent? If you mean that you want to avoid the permanent retainer by using those bands for months, years, well then no. I mean, I personally never tried it for much longer, but it's already a pain in the ass to have those elastics on your teeth until the time that your gap closes. So I really don't recommend using it even for weeks or months or even years later after the gap closed. Trust me, it's not worth it. You really need to get the permanent retainer. And a permanent retainer is not even that expensive. It's just a fraction of the price that you should pay if you went to an orthodontist to have like braces and everything. Even people who wear braces still need to wear a permanent retainer as well to keep their teeth fixed. So you will need to do the same. What's the name of those bands? I get this question a lot. You find it under transparent bands, rubber bands, elastic bands. Anyway, the links are in the description down below, and if you click on that link, well, the name will be revealed and you will see how it's called. So what's the price? The main reason I bought those bands is because I didn't have thousands on my bank account to buy professional braces. And those transparent rubber bands are basically way cheaper. A pack with a couple of hundred elastics inside of it costs around $10, which is not that expensive. Also, the price of a retainer placed behind the 2 front teeth costs $50. Or if you want a retainer for the 6 front teeth, it will cost you $150. And that's just a one-time cost. You don't need to repeat this process ever again. So now your gap is closed forever. What did your dentist say about this? During my first dentist appointment, I explained what I did with my teeth, and she simply checked everything inside my mouth. Then she advised me to go to an orthodontist to place a permanent retainer. Strangely enough, my dentist never said I did something wrong or dangerous. She was not even shocked or surprised when I told her what I did. And a few days later, I had my first appointment with the orthodontist. And she informed me that for such a small correction, such as closing a small gap, braces wouldn't cost thousands like I thought it would cost. She told me I could fix my gap professionally for only 350 euros. Converted, that's 420 US dollars. Which is still a reasonable and affordable price. Knowing that most people buy new cell phones every year for double the price, and your nice looking teeth last your whole life. I mean, almost. After face palming, I could have simply used braces for a reasonable price, but anyhow, the gap was already closed with the elastics. I'm telling you this because you should inform yourself first on the prices in your country. Perhaps it's not that expensive as you think. Also, certain countries reimburse braces until the age of 18. So if you're under 18, inform yourself if you can get professional braces for free. For your information, that's the case here in Belgium. Okay, moving on to the next question. How long does it take to get that retainer? Well, it only took one appointment with the orthodontist, which lasted only 20 minutes to place the retainer, and that's it. So did your gums bleed? Well, no, it's very important to not let the band slip against your gums so they don't get cut. I always try to keep some space between the bands and the gums, even though it often slipped upwards. I had to pull them down every 5 seconds. Don't continue doing this if you have a lot of bleeding. Certain people do continue to use it even when it starts bleeding, but I personally wouldn't do it. But does it also work on gaps on the side? Well, honestly, I can't answer this question because I can only speak from my own experience with my 2 front teeth on the front. For all other teeth on the sides or on the back, I honestly don't know. Does it also work for the bottom teeth? Well, I think that this should work on the bottom teeth as well. I never tried it, but again, if it's more on the sides rather than in the middle, I don't know if it will. Perhaps it can work for certain people, but perhaps not. And won't this open more gaps on the sides? Well, unfortunately, yes. That's why I try to have one rubber band around the 4 front teeth to move the backs behind. So, imagine having a 1mm gap in the middle of your teeth. If your gap moves all the way to the sides, you will only have half a millimeter on the left and half a millimeter on the right, which is much smaller on both sizes than the 1 full millimeter on the front. Also, if the gap is now placed behind, it's much more discreet. Can my child wear it? Well, of course not. Are you crazy? Kids under 18 are still developing their mouth and teeth. So if you want to have your kid to close its gap, go to a professional such as an orthodontist first. In certain countries, braces are fully reimbursed until the age of 18 by the health insurer. This means you pay the full price of the braces, but you receive your money back afterwards. So next, is it safe for your teeth? The reason why this is not the safest option is that you are not guided by a professional if something occurs. So you know that you are doing this all at your own risk. However, if you feel that something's off, you can always go to a local dentist as well. Will my teeth fall off? Well, I hope not. It didn't fall off with me, and I saw other people doing this and they had good results too. Nevertheless, I can only speak from my own experience. I never had any underlying gum diseases or teeth issues before, so that can play a role too. And I'm always very careful with the slightest negative side effect. I said to myself, Gabish, if you see that your teeth will fall off, you better stop or I'll punch your teeth out myself. But nothing happened. Okay, next question I get quite frequently. My gap is bigger than 1 centimeter or 1 inch. Can I do this? If your gap is so extremely big that it even looks like you're missing a full tooth, I wouldn't do this if I were you. This trick works for small up to medium-sized gaps such as mine was. Okay guys, I just want to tell you that even though it worked for me, it doesn't mean that it's a guarantee that it will work for everyone. The first time I discovered this, I was so excited and I immediately started doing this, and luckily everything went fine. But I'm aware that other people are extremely sensitive on their gums, teeth, and so on. So when you start getting any doubt that something might be off, well, simply stop wearing the bands and consult your dentist or orthodontist. Basically, always contact a professional first in any case. Especially if you're under 18, don't do it if you're still in your teens, because your teeth and mouth is still developing. I did this because I was broke, young, and I wanted a quick result. I got lucky and I realized it was kind of risky, so here you go. I hope to have answered the most important questions. Leave a thumbs up for all the honesty in this video and subscribe for other cool videos. See you next time guys, bye!